During the 14th century, a time when Buddhism was flourishing, expanding, and being innovated in Tibet, lived a monk and spiritual leader who resided in a monastery in the heart of Tibet. During his lifetime, he predicted that when he died, he'll be reincarnated and his future self must be found and put in his place to continue his work here on earth. The monk dies in the end of the 13th century. The search begins for his replacement. 2 years later, a child is found. He was said to be the incarnation of the Bodhisattva. This is the origin of the Dalai Lama. Tibetans believe the Dalai Lama to be one of the numerous incarnations of the Bodhisattva of compassion. He is said to embody all the compassion of the Buddha. Tibetans often hold the Dalai Lama as the most important leader in Tibet, both spiritually and politically, and often refer to him as His Holiness. They are said to come from the Telugu lineage of the Gelug leader. Telugu lineage means a lineage of religious figures who consciously choose to be reborn several times to continue their religious goals and pursuits on earth. The Gelug school is one of the 4 major schools of Tibetan Buddhism and is also known as the Yellow Hat sect. The Gelug school was founded by Tsongkhapa, who lived from 1357 to 1419. He was a philosopher and religious leader who is most noted for ordering all the schools of Buddhism. The Gelug school was the 4th school to be developed in the beginning of the 14th century, but by the end of the 15th century it was the most dominant. The title Dalai Lama is often translated into spiritual teacher. However, though, the term Dalai means ocean in Mongolian, and is supposed to represent the breadth and depth of the Lama's wisdom. Lama is translated into Guru into Sanskrit, and in Tibet it also means superior. The first Dalai Lamas were only considered spiritual leaders until the 17th century. The 5th Dalai Lama, with the help from a Mongolian ruler, was able to unite Tibet. From then until 1959, the Dalai Lama sat as the head of Tibetan government. The government was primarily ran out of the city of Lhasa, where the Dalai Lama resided until he was exiled. In Lhasa, there were 2 different palaces that one would reside. The main one is called Patala Palace, and in the summer, Noblinka Palace in part. Upon the death of a Dalai Lama, the monks who were generally closest to the deceased leader start the search for his next successor, a small child. This search generally takes a few years. The monks take into account state oracles and mysterious occurrences when searching for a new child. Often the late leader will predict certain regions or specific characteristics of the place where his successor will be found. The primary sign a child can exhibit is having familiarity with the possessions of the previous Dalai Lama. Once the child is found, he will be taken to Lhasa and be trained. Besides the Dalai Lama, there is the Panchen Lama, who are the 2nd highest ranking lamas in the Gelug sect. The name means great scholar. They are said to come from incarnations of the celestial Buddha. He is described in scriptures in Mahayana literature. According to these scriptures, this Buddha possesses many merits resulting from good deeds over countless past lives as a bodhisattva named Dharmakaya. Currently, there are 11 incarnations of the Panchen Lama, except right now there is current controversy who is really the 11th Lama. The first Dalai Lama was named Gunjung. He lived from 1391 to 1474. He was born into a family of nomadic tribesmen and was given the name Dorji. At the age of 7, he was taken to the Narthang monastery where he became fully ordained. Because of his great loyalty and devotion, he became Tsongkhapa's principal disciple in 1416. Tsongkhapa even handed him a brand new set of robes as a sign that he would spread Buddhist teachings all over. In 1447, he founded the Tashi Lompo Monastery, which turned into one of the biggest universities of the Gelugpa school. He died there at the age of 84. He was best known for combining study and practice, as well as being a great scholar. The 2nd Dalai Lama was named Gunden Gyatso, who lived from 1475 to 1541. His father was a fairly well-known Tantra practitioner belonging to the Nyingma sect. When he was conceived, his father reportedly had a dream where someone dressed in white appeared and predicted that his son would be able to recollect his past life. In this dream, his father was told that he should be called Gunden Dripa. The next auspicious sign was supposedly when he was first able to speak. He told his parents his name was Pem Dorji, the name of the first Dalai Lama. He then said he would like to live in the Tashi Lompo monastery. He received much of his education from his father until the age of 11 when he was recognized as the reincarnation of the first Dalai Lama. The monks came to take him. He told them, "I have been waiting." He left home and was enthroned and then ordained by the Panchen Lama. He continued his studies both at the Tashi Lompo Monastery and the Drapung Monastery, where he became the abbot. In 1526, he revived the Great Prayer Festival. He continued doing great work until his death at the age of 67. He was most remembered for being a great poet of mystical poetry. The third Dalai Lama came from a rich family whose parents already had several children who had all died. To prevent his death, they fed him on the milk of a white goat and gave him a name meaning the prosperous one saved by goat's milk. In 1546, at the age 3, he was recognized as the reincarnation of the second Dalai Lama by the ruler of Tibet and a Panchen Lama. At this time, he was escorted to the Drepung monastery where he was enthroned and had all his hair cut, symbolizing the renunciation of the world. At age 7 and age 22, he took his vows, where he was given the name nos07nom. Later, he founded the Fen Leshki Ling to help assist with certain religious activity. This monastery is now known as the Namgyal Monastery, where it still serves as the Dalai Lama's personal monastery. He also founded 2 other monasteries, the Kumbum, located at the Tsongkhapa's birthplace, as well as the Letheng Monastery. In 1578, the Mongolian king Altan Khan offered him the name Dalai Lama. In return, he gave Altan Khan the name Brahma, meaning the king of religion, making him the first member of this lineage to hold the title Dalai Lama. While teaching in Mongolia, he died at the age 45 in 1588. The great-grandson of Altan Khan was the next Dalai Lama in the line of succession. His name was Yolten Gyatso, and he lived from 1589 to 1616. Based off of promising signs at his birth and different predictions from state oracles, he was recognized as his successor and given his name. However, his parents refused to let him leave home until he was older, so he remained in Mongolia, receiving his education from Tibetan lamas. Finally, in 1601, at the age 12, he was escorted to Tibet, where he was given his vows. In his life, he became the abbot of several different monasteries. At the age 27, he died at the Drepung Monastery. The fifth Dalai Lama lived from 1617 to 1682. The news of the next reincarnation was received by the chief attendant of Yolten Gyatso. He knew the child's abilities and visited him, claiming he was the next successor. However, his discovery was kept a secret due to current political problems. After some time had passed, he was taken to the Drepung Monastery, where he was given his novice vows by the third Panchen Lama and given his actual name, Lama. He began being recognized in Tibet during the time of political struggle. However, in 1642, he was enthroned and became the first Dalai Lama to be both spiritual and political leader of Tibet. During his lifetime, he established 2 education institutions, one for lay officials and the other for monk officials. At these institutions, the students were taught Mongolian, Sanskrit, astrology, poetry, as well as administration. Before he died, he requested of the Desi that his death be kept secret for a while till the next child be found. He died when he was 65 years old, and with his request, his secret was kept for 15 years. When people demanded or an event required his appearance, people would disguise themselves as him. This continued until 1688, when a boy was found and brought to Lhasa. Here the boy was educated but still kept his secret. Finally, in 1697, the Desi sent word to the Manchu court to inform the emperor that Lama Gyatso had died, but there had already been a discovery of the 6th Dalai Lama. The fact that a new child had already been found was a blessing to the people, because rather than focusing on the death, people were happy about the new arrival. The 5th Panchen Lama gave him his vows as well as the name nos07nom. That same year, he was enthroned. However, only 4 years later, there was a conflict between the Desi and another political leader, resulting in the death of the Desi. This troubled the still rather young man, and he decided to leave the monastic life and choose a life of outdoors. He renounced his vows. Only a few years later, in 1706, he was invited to China and died along the way at only the age of 23. Before nos07nom died, he predicted his own death and rebirth in a song he wrote. White crane, lend me your wings, I go no farther than Letheng, and thence return again. This prediction would indicate that the next Dalai Lama would be born at Letheng in Khlam. His prediction was right, and 2 years after his disappearance, a new child was born. The local monastery and state oracles predicted this child to be the next reincarnation. Since there were still political problems going on, he was unable to go to Lhasa and was taken to the Kumbum monastery, where he was ordained. In 1720, he took his vows, enthroned, and was given the name nos07nom. During his life, he studied Buddhist philosophy greatly, becoming a master of Sutra and Tantra. In 1751, he comprised the Prashad, known as the Council Ministry, to help administer the Tibetan government. 2 years later, he founded the Say School. In 1757, at the age of 49, he passed away. In his lifetime, he became a great scholar who wrote many books on Tantra. He was also a well-established poet, focusing on many different spiritual themes. During the next Dalai Lama's birth, many auspicious signs were seen. When he was conceived, his homeland had an extraordinary harvest, with barley bearing 3, 4, and even 5 years. When celebrating this harvest, his mother and father were in the garden when a huge rainbow appeared. The rainbow was so big that one end touched down to the mother's shoulder. This was seen as a fortunate sign that is often associated with the birth of a holy being. When he was still a baby, he was frequently observed looking towards the heavens with a smile on his face. Even more miraculous, he was also once said to be sitting in a meditative lotus position. When the child began to speak, he said, "I will go to Lhasa," at the age of 3. When the 6th Panchen Lama heard about this boy, he officially announced him the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. In 1762, at the age 4, the boy was escorted to Lhasa and grown. In 1777, he became fully ordained and was